I spent many happy hours during the summer of 2020 doing planetary observations. Jupiter and Saturn made their stately march across the summer sky in tandem. Later in the season, Mars began to appear higher and earlier in the evening. On nights when the Colorado wildfire smoke wasn't too bad, I had my scope out and sought out the tiny blue-green disks of Uranus and Neptune. One morning, sipping coffee from my favorite cup, it occurred to me that it might be possible to observe all 8 planets of the solar system in one evening. Even though I grew up with a 9-planet solar system, a few years back, poor Pluto got reclassified and is not included in this exercise. Probably just as well, as Pluto is a pretty tough object to observe. I did a little research, and as it turns out, a handful of evenings in November of 2020 provide a pretty unique opportunity to complete a one-night marathon, observing all 8 planets from sunset to sunrise. These dates came up as future possibilities, but not as good as the current one. I'll do some more digging and post updates on this channel. Be sure to subscribe. One way of determining if all planets are visible on a given night is by using the Sky and Telescope Skygazer's Almanac. This handy reference is included each December as a supplement to your subscription. Mercury is probably the main key to completing the marathon. It is only visible for short periods several times a year, and in 2020 it is favorable for a few weeks in November. Choose a clear evening between November 12th and 20th and get ready for the tour. Start the quest by looking at the ground beneath your feet. There, you've just observed the planet Earth. 1 down and 7 to go. The first 6 planets on the list can all be observed with the naked eye, no special equipment required. At the minimum, Uranus and Neptune will require binoculars or a small telescope. They're pretty far out, so the bigger the better. Saturn and Jupiter can easily be seen starting shortly after sunset, about 25 degrees above the horizon in the southwest. Catch this pair early, because by 7:30 they're getting pretty low and will set by 9 o'clock. Check, check. Now turn your attention toward the southeast and you'll spot Mars glowing red high in the sky. After Jupiter, it's the second brightest thing in the sky at this hour, and it's hard to miss. Check. We've just got started and we're already halfway through the solar system. Neptune is a little tougher, and it's going to take a little help from a telescope or binoculars. Neptune transits the meridian about 7:30 p.m. This means it crosses an imaginary line extending from due south on the horizon to directly overhead. At transit, an object is at its highest point and is normally the best time for observation. If you have a go-to scope, you've got it made. If not, you will have to consult a current chart or planetarium app on your device and do some star hopping. In a typical amateur telescope, Neptune will appear as a fuzzy blue disk or an out-of-focus star. Uranus doesn't transit until about 10:30, but by 7:30 you may be able to spot it in the southeast about 30 degrees above the horizon. If you wait for transit, Uranus is really high in the sky at 60 degrees elevation. While the ice giants of Uranus and Neptune are roughly the same size, Neptune is about twice the distance away from Earth. This makes Uranus easier to spot, but in a modest telescope it still appears as nothing more than a tiny, fuzzy blue-green disk. If you've located the ice giants, you're doing great. 6 down and 2 to go. Our final 2 targets won't appear until right before sunrise, so if you're so inclined, it's time for a little nap. Venus rises about 4 a.m., Mercury around 5 a.m., and sunrise is about 6:40. Venus will be brilliant and hard to miss on the eastern horizon. It will remain visible until shortly before sunrise. Mercury is also very bright, but being closer to the sun, it quickly disappears in the sunrise. The best time to spot tiny Mercury is about an hour before sunrise, about 5:30 a.m. At this time, Venus will still be visible slightly higher than Mercury, so you can make both observations at the same time. On the morning of November 13th, Mercury and Venus come together with the Moon and the bright star Spica to form a nice parallelogram pattern. The Moon will be a very thin crescent, similar in appearance to this snapshot of the Moon and Mercury that I took back in 2016. Well done! You've managed to take in all the planets of the solar system in one evening, a rare accomplishment. If you're hell-bent on observing Pluto, it's well placed, not far from Jupiter. However, in an amateur telescope at magnitude 14, it's barely visible and won't appear to be anything more than a very tiny, dim star. Even images from the Hubble Space Telescope can't get anything more than a handful of pixels. It wasn't until 2015 that we were able to get good images of Pluto from the New Horizons probe. So it's a good thing for this exercise that Pluto has been left out. For that, we can thank this fellow.
I'm the guy who kicked Pluto out of the solar system.
Actually, Neil, it was this guy. I hope you enjoyed this little video and decide to take up the challenge. If you do, be sure to subscribe to my channel and post a comment. I'll post updates for future opportunities. Thanks for watching.